Beware the Ides of March, a warning whispered in the streets of Rome, dismissed by a man who stood at the pinnacle of power. He believed he was invincible, a god among mortals. But what if the greatest threat wasn't an invading army, but the very men who called him friend? This is the story of how loyalty curdled into poison, and how a single day stained the heart of an empire forever. Welcome to Hidden Past. Today, we journey back to 44 BC, to the final, fatal hours of Gaius Julius Caesar. Rome, the magnificent center of the world, hums with tension. The Republic, for centuries the bedrock of Roman identity, is cracking under the weight of one man's ambition. That man is Caesar, a brilliant general, a charismatic politician, a writer, a reformer. He had conquered Gaul, crossed the Rubicon, and defeated his rival Pompey the Great in a bitter civil war. Now he has been declared dictator in perpetuo, dictator for life. To many, he was a savior. The common people adored him. He gave them grain, spectacular games, and a sense of stability after years of chaos. His soldiers, who had followed him through deserts and frozen forests, were fanatically loyal. Caesar was more than a leader, he was a symbol of Roman glory. He reformed the calendar, rebuilt cities, and planned grand new campaigns. He was forging a new future for Rome, with himself at its very center. Power radiated from him like the sun, but as we know, staring too long at the sun can blind you. At the height of his power, Caesar was untouchable. Senators who had once been his equals now bowed to him. Statues bearing his likeness were erected alongside those of the ancient kings and gods. There were whispers of making him a king, an idea that was poison in a republic founded on the overthrow of monarchy. He was offered a diadem, a royal crown, and though he publicly refused it, the seed of suspicion was planted. Did he truly reject the crown, or was it a calculated political play? For some, this was the final proof that the Republic was already dead and Caesar was its executioner. But history has a strange way of punishing ambition. While Caesar saw himself as Rome's protector, a growing number of senators saw a tyrant. These weren't just old enemies. They were his allies, his appointees, men who owed their careers to him. Leading them were Cassius, a proud man who had long resented Caesar's dominance, and Marcus Junius Brutus. Brutus was a complex figure, a man torn between his personal affection for Caesar and his fierce devotion to the Republic. His ancestor, centuries before, had been the one to expel Rome's last king. The weight of that legacy was heavy. For Brutus, this wasn't just politics, it was a sacred duty. The conspiracy grew, cloaked in secret meetings and whispered oaths. They called themselves the Liberators. Their goal, to save the Republic by killing the man who threatened to become its king. The Ides of March 15th, 40 for BC, the day was heavy with ill omens. Caesar's wife, Calpurnia, had nightmares of his death and begged him not to go to the Senate. A soothsayer had famously warned him about this very day. But Caesar, ever confident, brushed aside the fears. To show weakness was not in his nature. On his way to the Senate meeting, held at the Theatre of Pompey, he reportedly saw the soothsayer and joked, "The Ides of March have come." The chilling reply came back, "Hey, Caesar, but not gone." He entered the Curia. The senators rose to greet him, crowding around his chair. It looked like respect, but it was a trap. One senator, Tullius Caesar, approached with a petition, grabbing Caesar's toga and pulling it from his shoulders. It was the signal. Casca, another conspirator, struck the first blow, a shallow cut near the neck. Caesar, shocked, turned and cried out, "Vile Casca, what is this?" Chaos erupted. The Liberators, daggers drawn, descended upon him. He fought back, a cornered Volk, but he was hopelessly outnumbered. Then, through the blur of faces and flashing steel, he saw him, Brutus, his friend. His protege, the man he had pardoned and promoted. As Brutus lunged forward with his own dagger, legend tells us Caesar uttered his final, heartbroken words, "Et tu, Brute." "You too, Brutus." With that, he covered his face with his toga and accepted his fate. He fell at the foot of a statue of his great rival, Pompey, his body pierced by 23 wounds. The tyrant was dead, but what they had killed was not just a man, but an idea. And what came next was not the freedom they had hoped for. The liberators believed they had saved the Republic. They ran into the streets, holding their bloody daggers aloft, shouting liberty, freedom, tyranny is dead. But the people of Rome did not cheer. They were horrified, confused. They had loved Caesar. The senators had misjudged the mood of the city entirely. Instead of restoring the Republic, the assassination created a power vacuum. It ignited another 13 years of brutal civil war. Caesar's heir, his great-nephew Octavian, joined forces with Mark Antony, Caesar's loyal general, to hunt down the conspirators. Brutus and Cassius, the would-be saviors, were defeated and took their own lives. The Republic they had killed died with them. From the ashes of that conflict, one man would emerge as the ultimate victor, Octavian. He would take a new name, Augustus, and become Rome's first emperor, completing the very transformation Caesar had started. The irony is staggering. In their desperate attempt to prevent a king, the conspirators paved the way for an emperor, ensuring the death of the Republic for good. So, what is the legacy of this great betrayal? Was Caesar a tyrant who deserved his fate, or a visionary leader whose death plunged Rome into chaos? Was Brutus a noble patriot or a treacherous friend? The questions still echo through the halls of history. Caesar's death serves as a timeless, chilling reminder that power is a fragile illusion, that loyalty can be a mask for ambition, and that sometimes the most noble intentions can lead to the most catastrophic results. The line between a hero and a tyrant, a liberator and an assassin, is often written not in stone, but in blood. If you love stories the world tried to forget, join us on Hidden Past. Subscribe for more tales of power, betrayal, and the secrets buried in history. Thank you for watching.